You open your eyes, the morning alarm is, it's still ringing in your ear, and before your feet even touch the floor, your brain just starts firing.
Yeah, immediately, right?
He goes, I should go to the gym today. I should really check those work emails. I should be much further along in my career by now.
It is a lot for 7 in the morning.
It's exhausting. Before you have even made a cup of coffee, you are already totally drained. So why does trying to be a quote-unquote good, responsible person leave us feeling so completely wiped out? Well, welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are exploring a psychological shift that can honestly completely change how you experience your daily life. We are talking about the shift from the phrase I should to the phrase I want.
It is a really profound shift. And as we explore this together, we want to acknowledge you, our listener. We know that many of you are listening to this not just to understand human psychology, but, to practice and improve your English.
Which is incredibly impressive, by the way.
Totally. Tackling complex psychological ideas in a second language is a real challenge, and we really respect that. So our mission today is to explore these concepts very clearly.
Right.
We're going to pace this comfortably, unpack the vocabulary naturally, and just help you reclaim your personal choices in life, all while you practice your English.
Okay, let's unpack this morning exhaustion. We all know that feeling, right? Waking up to just a barrage of demands in our own heads.
Oh, yeah. The endless list.
Exactly. I should have more money saved, or I have that family event this weekend. I should act outgoing and happy. We tend to accept this inner voice as completely normal.
We do.
We just assume that, this is what being a responsible adult sounds like.
We do assume that, but psychologists view it very differently. When we constantly think in terms of I should, we are engaging in what is called a cognitive distortion.
A cognitive distortion.
Right. A cognitive distortion is basically a way your brain lies to you. It convinces you of something that is not entirely true or healthy. So in this case, living entirely on should statements is actually a form of chronic self-bullying.
Wow. Chronic self-bullying. That is a really strong way to put it.
It is, but it's accurate.
So when my brain is giving me that morning list of shoulds, it isn't actually trying to be helpful. It is just beating me up.
Well, it feels like it's helping because it creates the sense of urgency, right? But the mechanism behind it is flawed. And this brings us to a fascinating psychological concept called introjection.
Interjection. Okay, how does that work?
Let's think about how a ventriloquist works. The ventriloquist sits there, moving the puppet's mouth, throwing their voice so it looks like the dummy is the one speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, interjection is exactly like that. Throughout our lives, society, our parents, our teachers, and our culture, they all act as the ventriloquist. They tell us what success looks like or, how we ought to behave and what makes us valuable.
And because we hear those messages so often, we just eventually swallow them whole, like we internalize them.
Exactly. We swallow their expectations and we mistake their voice for our own inner voice.
Right.
We actually become the dummy thinking we are the one speaking. That is interjection.
That is such a wild image, but it makes a lot of sense.
It does. Evolutionarily, this makes a lot of sense. Humans are tribal creatures, right? Thousands of years ago, if you didn't follow the rules of the tribe, you were cast out.
And you couldn't survive alone.
Right. So our brains are hardwired to care deeply about what the group expects of us. We internalize the tribe's rules to just stay safe.
But the problem is, in the modern world, the tribe is, it's everyone and everything. It's social media, it's corporate culture, it's these totally unrealistic lifestyle standards.
Yep, it is everywhere.
And when we swallow all of those external rules, it completely transforms our daily life. It turns every single action into a heavy obligation.
And an obligation is a forced responsibility. It is something you do because you feel you have to, not because you want to.
Right.
And when everything from your career to your social life to your hobbies feels like an obligation, the physical result is intense. The psychological term for this feeling is being suffocated. You are just buried under a mountain of expectations, unable to breathe freely.
This feels like a perfect moment for our first English learning highlight. We really want to pause and reflect on the language used to describe this heavy state.
That is a great idea.
We have two powerful phrases here. We are going to say them slowly so you can practice hearing the rhythm and even repeating them out loud wherever you are. Here's the first one. I am trapped in a prison of shoulds.
Let's take a breath and hear that again, nice and slow. I am trapped in a prison of shoulds.
And the second phrase is, my life feels like a long list of obligations.
My life feels like a long list of obligations.
It really is a prison, like waking up every morning and putting rocks into a backpack, but the rocks actually belong to other people.
That is a fantastic analogy.
But, I am stuck on this idea of the ventriloquist. If society is the ventriloquist and these shoulds are not really my own voice, how do I tell the difference between chronic self-bullying and actual healthy self-discipline?
That is a very fair question.
Because, if I just wake up and say, I don't want to go to work today, so I won't, my life is going to fall apart pretty quickly. Don't we need some shoulds to just function in society?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? What's fascinating here is how the human brain confuses external pressure with internal drive.
Okay.
True self-discipline is fueled by your own values. It is when you are working toward a goal that you genuinely desire. For example, I want to be healthy, so I will go for a run. That is internal drive.
All right, that comes from inside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you operate entirely on shoulds, like I should run because society says I need to look a certain way, you are running on the fear of disappointing others. You are running on the fear of failing to meet an arbitrary standard.
So when I am lying in bed at night feeling completely physically and mentally drained, it is because my brain just spent 14 hours running from a perceived threat rather than running toward a goal.
Precisely. Fear is an incredibly exhausting fuel source. It just burns out your nervous system.
It really does.
But thankfully, we are not permanently locked in this invisible prison. There is a deeply practical way to break out, and it starts with a concept known as language alchemy.
Alchemy is a great word. Historically, it was this magical chemistry where people tried to turn heavy common metals like lead into solid gold.
Right, exactly.
So language alchemy means transforming our heavy, burdensome thoughts into something powerful and valuable.
Yes, the core idea is that shifting your daily vocabulary from I should to I want or I choose to fundamentally rewires your brain. It helps you regain your agency.
Agency.
Right. Agency is your ability to take action and exert power over your own life. When you have agency, you are the driver of the car, not just a passenger in the back seat.
I love that.
And it builds your autonomy, which is the freedom to govern yourself.
Reclaiming our agency and autonomy just by changing a word. It sounds almost too simple, but, well, let's test it out.
Let's do it.
Let's look at a specific English learning experiment. If you are listening right now, think about the feeling you get in your body when you say the sentence, I should study English. Try saying it out loud. I should study English. It feels passive, right?
Yeah, it feels like a chore, like someone is standing over your shoulder forcing you to do it.
Exactly. It feels like hard labor.
Now contrast that with the active empowerment of a different sentence structure. Try saying, I want to study English because I want to understand foreign videos.
Or I want to study English because I want to connect with people from different cultures.
Notice how the energy shifts in your chest. Suddenly, you're not a victim of a rule. You have reason. You are in control.
Or even more radically, you can use your agency to say no. You can say, I choose not to study English tonight because my body needs rest.
That is a brilliant example. You are still making a choice about English, but you are choosing rest. And you are owning that decision. You aren't avoiding it out of guilt. You are actively deciding.
That feels so much lighter.
It does. And we can apply this filter to almost any area of life, especially social pressure. Instead of saying, I should go to that party tonight or people will think I'm antisocial, try saying, I choose to stay home because I want to save my energy for myself.
And it goes even deeper than social events, doesn't it? It applies to our deepest sense of self-worth.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of the crushing thought, I should be more perfect to deserve love, the alternative is, I want to explore new fields and grow because it brings me pure joy.
Notice how that shift moves us away from anxiety. Anxiety completely depletes our willpower. But this new language moves us into a grounded sense of alignment.
Alignment?
Yeah, alignment means that everything inside you, your actions, your thoughts, and your values are pointing in the exact same direction.
Let's practice our next English learning highlight, focusing on these empowered phrases. We will speak them slowly, giving you a chance to feel the difference in the language. Here's the first one. I change my I should to I choose to.
Listen to the power in that phrasing. I change my I should to I choose to.
And the next phrase, I am reclaiming my personal agency.
I am reclaiming my personal agency.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. I want to push back on this just a bit.
Go for it.
Because conceptually, this is beautiful, but let's look at the real world. Let's say my boss expects a massive report by tomorrow morning.
Right.
If I change my vocabulary from I should do this report to I choose to do this report, doesn't that feel a bit like I am just playing make-believe? I mean, the external crushing pressure of my boss's deadline is still there. Does a new sentence actually change the social pressure, or are we just pretending?
That is the exact friction most people feel when they first try this. But it is not about pretending the external pressure doesn't exist.
Oh.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is about understanding that language literally acts as the operating system for our emotions. Our brains are incredibly literal biological machines.
Very literal. Yeah.
When you use the word should, you are signaling to your amygdala, which is the part of your brain responsible for the fight or flight threat response, that you are failing to meet a survival rule. You cast yourself in the role of a passive victim under threat.
Wait, so the word should literally triggers a stress hormone release?
Yes, it does. But when you deliberately formulate the words I choose to, you force a different part of your brain to engage. You activate the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic, decision-making, and personality expression.
Oh, wow.
So going back to your example with the boss, when you say, I choose to do this report, you are acknowledging reality. You are saying, I choose to do this report because keeping this job aligns with my current financial goals.
I see. So the external reality didn't change. The report is still due.
Exactly. But your internal stance shifted. You literally shifted your brain out of passive victim mode and into the role of active master. The feeling of power follows the language.
That completely flips the perspective. The language is the operating system. When you update the language, you update the software running your nervous system.
That's exactly it.
So since we know that this language update can change our emotional software, how do we actually install it? Because honestly, doing this in the middle of a stressful workday seems incredibly difficult.
It is difficult in the heat of the moment. That is why the most effective way to install this update is to do it at the end of the day. And this brings us to a highly practical, actionable routine called the nighttime reauthoring ritual.
The nighttime reauthoring ritual.
Right. To reauthor means to write the story again, but this time you are the author.
The goal of this ritual is to help us achieve liberation, which simply means freedom and emotional sovereignty.
Sovereignty is a great word.
It really is. Kings and queens have sovereignty over a country. Emotional sovereignty means having supreme power and authority over your own mind and heart.
Exactly.
And I love the vibe set for this ritual. Imagine a comfortable room, low lights, maybe you have some soothing lo-fi music playing in the background. It is a quiet time, just for you, right before sleep.
The ritual consists of 3 clear steps. Step 1 is catch the should.
Catch the shoulds.
Yes. As you are lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, notice the anxious or guilty thoughts that naturally pop up, like, I didn't answer that email, or I didn't exercise today.
Right, they always sneak in.
You do. Do not avoid the thought.
Yeah.
Do not try to push it away. Just pause, observe it, and mentally say to it, I see you, that's a should.
I see you, that's a should. It is like you are pointing a flashlight at it. Why does just observing it help so much?
Because the moment you label it, you separate yourself from it. You are no longer the thought, you are the observer of the thought. That alone stops the emotional spiral.
That makes total sense.
Once you have caught it, you move to step 2. Filter the source. You question where that thought actually came from. You check the ventriloquist.
Right.
Ask yourself, is this my true desire, or is this someone else's expectation?
This is where you can have a little fun with it. You can ask a playful question like, will the earth be destroyed if I don't do this? Will the sky fall if I answer that email tomorrow morning instead of tonight?
And if the answer is no, which, let's be honest, it almost always is, you mentally rip off that must label, you realize the urgency is manufactured.
It's totally made up.
Exactly. Which leads right into step 3. Reauthor your tonight. This is where you engage your prefrontal cortex and actively rewrite the script.
Okay, so how does that sound?
Instead of tossing and turning, feeling guilty about not working, you tell yourself, tonight, I choose to close my laptop. I want to give myself a peaceful night because rest is productive.
It is such a practical routine. Catch the should, filter the source, reauthor your tonight. It reminds me of running an antivirus scan on your computer right before you shut it down. Like, oh, that is a perfect way to look at it.
You know how a computer gets sluggish because there are all these hidden background processes eating up the memory? This ritual scans your brain for those hidden shoulds and closes them down, cleaning up the day's mental junk.
Totally.
But I do have a question about how this impacts our actual rest. So what does this all mean for our daily exhaustion? By doing this filter, do we actually neutralize the guilt of not being productive enough? Because guilt is pretty stubborn.
This raises an important question. It is stubborn, but let's look at how guilt actually functions. Guilt survives in the dark.
In the dark.
Yes. It survives in ambiguity when it remains a vague, unquestioned feeling of, I am not doing enough. By actively recognizing the thought and filtering it, you expose it to logic.
Ah, I see.
When you explicitly realize the earth will not be destroyed, the guilt loses its logical foundation. Shining a light on it destroys its power.
That is amazing.
That active recognition is what finally gives your nervous system permission to stand down, stop producing stress hormones, and experience genuine restorative rest. We bring it into the light, and it vanishes. Well, this brings us to our final English learning highlight. It is a beautiful healing affirmation meant to be spoken at the end of this nighttime ritual.
Yes, it is very powerful.
We are going to recite it together piece by piece so you can absorb the meaning and the cadence. I will start the first sentence. My life does not belong to the expectations of the world.
I release the weight of shoulds tonight.
I want peace. I choose rest.
And I am the author of my own life.
Let's read that whole affirmation one more time, straight through, very smoothly.
My life does not belong to the expectations of the world. I release the weight of shoulds tonight. I want peace. I choose rest. And I am the author of my own life.
What a profound journey this has been. We started by identifying the invisible prison of introjection, how our evolutionary drive for safety causes us to swallow the world's expectations and turn them into suffocating obligations.
Then we explored how language acts as an emotional operating system. By applying language alchemy, shifting I should to I choose to, we can move out of the passive victim role and reclaim our personal agency and autonomy.
And finally, we learned how to install that update using the 3-step nighttime reauthoring ritual. Catching the should, filtering the source, and actively reauthoring the night to achieve true emotional sovereignty.
As we wrap up, we want to speak directly to your English learning journey. Listening to a deep dive on neuroscience, psychology, and cognitive behavior in a second language is not an easy task. It requires focus and dedication.
It really does.
But remember this, hitting play on this audio today was an I choose to, not an I should. You used your agency to invest this time in yourself and your growth.
Absolutely. You chose to be here, and we are so glad you did. As we close out our time together, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We have seen how changing just one single word from should to want can completely rewrite your relationship with yourself and calm your nervous system. So it makes you wonder what other hidden words in your daily vocabulary are secretly writing a script you don't actually want to live.
A fascinating question to explore.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Tonight, as you lie down to rest, we hope you remember to identify that ventriloquist. Leave the heavy expectations of others at the door, release the guilt, and remember to be the author of your own life. Good night, and take care.